All right. Hi, welcome to Geometry Part 8. Thank you so much for being here. While we get started, if you could go to this website on your devices, it could be either a computer, it could be your phone, but you'll just go to the website joinpd.com and you will enter this code. So BFPNWR. All right, and while you guys are getting into that platform, it's Pear Deck. It's kind of like an interactive way to have presentations. But while you are getting into that, just a few general announcements. So we will have live lessons every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. I do understand that, you might be busy on a particular day. You might not be able to make it at 4 p.m. Maybe that time just doesn't work for you at all with your schedule. Well, that is the great thing about ASU Prep, because we understand that you have other obligations. We set up a course so that it is flexible with your schedule. So what I will do to help you out is make sure that all of the lessons are recorded and linked on the course homepage. But another thing that I will do is I will also link my old lessons, which I use the same materials for the most part, but I'll link my old lessons also probably through an announcement, which you'll see on the course homepage. So here's like the course homepage, and then you click on announcements. I've already posted quite a few for just the first couple of days of the course, but I'll link an announcement that'll have all of my past recordings in case you are working ahead, because that's another thing that ASU Prep allows you to do, is work ahead at your own pace. So let's see how many, all three of you are connected. So let's go ahead and get started with this presentation. All right, and it says week 2, ignore the part where it says week. We are in a 20-day course schedule, not including the weekends. So the course end date is August 5th. So you, again, can work ahead and finish potentially before that time, but everything will need to be done by August 5th to be successful in the course. Today, we're going to kind of talk about the daily assignments first, and then we will get into the first unit, which is algebra review. Another reminder is, and I've already put an announcement about this, several of you have had your discussion-based assessments already scheduled, which is great. You are required to have 2 of them done for each ASU Prep course in order to be successfully receiving credit. So, and that's regardless of your grade in the class. Like there might be if it comes down to the wire, you might be able to get away with maybe not doing a discussion question, things like that. But like these DBAs, you cannot do that too. You have to do your DBAs. So DBA number 1, we will try to get done between 7:18 and 7:22. And DBA number 2, we will try to get done between 7:25 and 7:29 to ensure that you are successful for the course. They do have to be taken 7 days apart, so the sooner the better, starting with July 18th. You can feel free and click on this link and schedule your DBA through there if you haven't already. The thing with this though, normally I have more days open and I do have more flexibility than just what is shown here, but the free version of Calendly doesn't let me pick like blackout days. So because of that, it shows that I have less availability. If these other days are better for you, then just reach out to me via text. Hopefully you all have my phone number. If not, I'll post it up on the last slide. But reach out to me via text if the other days work better for you, and I will do my best to accommodate. I'm a coach, I'm a teacher also at a local high school in Arizona. So there are just like some training days and some like you know, camp days, things like that, that I just can't miss. And it's hard to have Calendly reflect that. So again, if those days don't work, I can be flexible. Just reach out to me via text. All right, let's see. And if you have questions as we go, feel free to either like jump in the chat, jump on the mic, just kind of giving you like the general information, and then we'll go right into the unit 1. So hopefully, ideally, we would have liked you to do your initial knowledge check by now. If not, do work on getting that done. So if you are not familiar with ASU Prep or how they do things for math courses, at least, you will have some assignments in Canvas, and you will have some assignments in Alex. And Alex is mostly where you'll be doing the math learning, right? It's a great software that kind of lets you work at the level that you're at. And if you don't know how to do something, you can watch a video or you can view an example, things like that. Alex is linked in the course, if you haven't noticed, like on these sides, there's one that says Alex, and then it'll open up a new window. If you have not set up your Alex yet, I do need to authorize you, but you have to do something first. So you have to go through the steps. I'll authorize you, and then you can actually get started in Alex. So do try to get that taken care of today if you haven't already. But once you are in Alex, there's going to be something called an initial knowledge check. It's kind of like a pretest, but you don't want to make the mistake of not taking it seriously or rushing through it or using an outside source to help you, because what that initial knowledge check does is determines how many skills you've already mastered. So in geometry, there's going to be 325 skills that you will have mastered by the end of this course. You might already be a master in, say, 100 of them, or 150, or even 200. So what that does is, by having them already mastered, you don't have to start from scratch on those lessons. You can pick up where at the level that you're at and continue to learn from that level. So once you have taken your initial knowledge check, that will help you determine your daily goal. And so let's say my initial knowledge check was a score of, and I'll say 150. All right, well then I'll take the topics that are remaining. So I'll have to do 325 minus 150, which is, and I'm doing this by hand, so 275, right? Oh, no, 175, sorry. Normally I just use a calculator. All right, 175 is the number of topics that are remaining. So you will take your remaining topics and then you'll divide it by 18. So we're gonna kind of split it over 18 days. And what I get from that, so that I will definitely use my calculator for. All right, so 175 divided by 18. So then my daily goal is 9.7, but regardless of whatever decimal it is, just round up. So then my daily goal is actually 10 lessons per day. So in that case, for every 10 topics that I have learned, I'm going to go ahead and submit a daily assignment. Now you can work ahead. If, let's say, in one day I decide to knock out 40 topics that have now been learned. So they went from remaining to now mastered. So they're my learned topics. Well, then that day I really should be submitting, based on my daily goal, 4 daily assignments. And that's kind of difficult for students to comprehend. So if you have questions about like your daily goal, you know, if you're submitting your assignments correctly, do let me know. What usually happens is sometimes kids will submit under their goal, like maybe they'll submit, like if my goal should be 10 and they submit 5. So they submit a daily assignment after completing 5 topics. Well, then I have to basically give them a 50% because they didn't reach that daily goal. So kind of understand what your goal is, and that every time you reach that goal, submit another daily assignment. So you might be submitting multiple in one day. Say you like take a day off, then you don't submit any that day. And then once you do continue to reach your goal, submit an assignment for each day that you reach your goal, if that makes sense. All right, so do that. And then you also have a discussion question coming up soon. I should have linked the PACE calendar in here, but I didn't. Let me see if I have an easy way to find that somewhere. Oh, here it is. So the best way to find it is in the course syllabus. And it says printable PACE guide. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat in case you guys want to have that in front of you as well. But this is kind of something that you can choose to print out and have next to you on your desk. And let me see, let me put this, I usually zoom out. It's better on my eyes, but let me zoom back in. All right, but like you see yesterday, you should have gotten basically 4 things done. You should have had your ASU PD attestation form, your initial knowledge check done, figuring out your goal, and then doing your first daily assignment. Now, if you ever fall behind, zeros will get entered automatically, but just make sure that you are, and actually, I don't know if you can see this screen. Let me put it on this one. Okay. So here's the PACE calendar if you don't have it pulled up on your end. But if you do fall behind, it is not a big deal as long as you can get caught back up. The zeros will not stay in there forever. They will go away once you do submit your assignment, whatever one was late. So you don't get penalized for late work, but I do encourage you not to procrastinate, because with the course end date being August 5th, and today being, you know, July 12th, this is a pretty fast-paced course. So really use this as your guide. If you fall behind and need help, like maybe some advice on how you can get caught back up, reach out. But, you know, try not to fall behind. All right, let me go back to the pair deck. All right. So the next slide. All right, so now on to the actual math of the lesson. Anyone have any questions so far? All right. So the way that you want to structure your notes is up to you. I have this fun little foldable setup if you'd like to try that out. They don't have to be different color pieces of paper, but it can just be 3 like white pieces of paper that you line up like this and fold over to create a few different tabs. And the way that those tabs can be set up can help you organize your notes. But I have had students in the past, you know, just not really want to do a foldable, even though they are a great way to organize information. They're fine just taking notes on their own. So it's up to you. But if you choose to do this, and these slides are also posted on the course homepage in case you missed something, here's a great way to organize your information for the algebra review unit. So then the very top tab, the shortest one, will be the cover, the algebra review. The next tab will be vocabulary. Underneath that tab can be translating expressions. The third tab would be solving word problems. Fourth would be solving linear equations and inequalities. And then 5, the fifth tab, which I will click here because it did get cut off on my screen, is equations of lines. All right, so that's one way to organize your information. Let's take a look at the first tab. So, and then you can also play around with some of the Pear Deck tools now, if you like. So here are some of the algebra review vocabulary. Hopefully this is review, but if it is not, not a big deal. Because when you do your ALEX assignments or you're learning in ALEX, it will cover these if you maybe don't know how to do order of operations, or if you forgot what the distributive property looks like. So if you want to kind of play around with some of the tools on Pear Deck, it looks like only one person has drawn something or stamped something, but you can kind of say like, okay, I know this one, I don't know this one. So maybe I'll add that one to my foldable, things like that. And I see that only 3 are connected. If that last person wants to get connected, you will go to joinpd.com, which I'll write somewhere on the screen. So it's joinpd.com. And then the code that you would enter is this one. It's the BFPNWR. It's kind of like Kahoot, but more of an interactive slideshow. All right, but let's just see. This one, there's not much you could have done, but like, and what I like about Pear Deck is these are anonymous. Unless you write your name on these, then I won't know whether this is Anna, Caitlin, and then I'm sorry if I say your name wrong, Muya and Sophia. So, I mean, I don't know who this one is. I mean, unless you write your name on it, but that's like a cool thing that we can do. Oh, and I think this one actually has like multiple people on this one. They're all different. But good. So you can see it looks like we understand evaluating algebraic expressions, but we might have forgotten compound inequalities. So let's kind of revisit that one for a second. All right. And again, you'll see this in your ALEX learning platform. But compound inequalities, think like compound sentences. Those are 2 sentences put together. Well, compound inequalities would be 2 inequalities put together. And they're usually joined by the words and or the words or. All right, or sometimes they are just smushed together, and that would be an example of an and inequality. So that's like saying Shelly wants to buy enough pizzas to feed her class. The lowest amount that she can buy is 15, and the highest amount she can buy is 20. All right, and maybe she can buy exactly 15 and exactly 20, so we can put equal twos in there. But that's basically one of those compound inequalities. You have 2 constrictions on a word problem. So on what your answer can be. So my answer could be any number between 15 and 20. Things like proportions, you'll definitely see those more in the similarity unit, but so I actually won't touch on that one yet, but it's kind of a way to, if I say I have 2 cups of water for every 3 cups of flour, and I want to know how many cups of water I would need for maybe 4 cups of flour, I could set up a proportion, which is what this is called, the fractions I just drew that are equal to each other. And I can solve that proportion by cross multiplying. So like 3 times x and 2 times 4. All right, and then I can solve for x. So do the opposite of what's being done. And then I get x equals 8 divided by 3, 8/3, or if I transfer that to a decimal, that would be about 2.7. All right, but the two fractions equal to each other themselves is what your proportion is. All right, but let's move on to the next slide. And again, if you have questions, feel free to kind of jump in. I know it seems like I'm talking a lot, but I do want to also make good use of your time that's spent here. So if you have questions, just interject, whether it's on the mic or in the chat, and I'll make sure to address them. All right, now for this one, or for what we'll talk about next, is, and let me see what foldable tab this goes under. This will go under your translating expressions tab. I know it says tab 1, but it's going to be on the translating expressions one. Because these are going to be words that we would use if we need to add, subtract, multiply, divide, reverse, or equal something. So instead of having you respond on this one, we'll just kind of take it piece by piece. So using your Pear Deck tools, what are some words that you would use if you need to add? Just kind of make a list. And remember, these lists that you're making are anonymous. So, you know, just kind of throw something out there, even if you're not sure. You know, learning from your mistakes helps you become better at whatever it is. All right, but go ahead and take about 10 more seconds to jot down. You can even type. I think there's a Pear Deck tool where you can type some words that you would use if you needed to add. All right, so let's see. And again, these are anonymous. All right, but we have plus, we have combine, we have sum, we have sum. Also, I just got a notification on my screen that said my internet connection is unstable. If for some reason it goes out, just kind of keep trying and it should resume. But anyway, you are all correct. So plus, combine, sum, feel free to add those to your tab or your notes. Other words that I thought of can be more than or increased, increased by, or saying that a number increases. And I'm sure that there's even more out there, but those are just some that would indicate to you that you would need to add something in a word problem. So good. Let's see the next one. All right, here it is. So what words would you use if you need to subtract? So go ahead and maybe make a list. What are some words you would use if you need to subtract? All right, let's see. So what are some words you would use if you need to subtract? So less than, take away, decrease, decreased by, minus, difference, again, the decreased by, decreasing, minus, and take away, remove, difference. So lots of stuff there, even more than we thought of in the adding section. But if you think about it, a lot of the adding ones do the complete opposite. So like opposite of increasing is decreasing, and that would tell you to subtract. So good. And less than will appear in another one of our lists. We'll see when we get there, but good job. So now what are some words that you would use if you need to multiply? So what are some words you would use if you need to multiply? All right, I think of multiplication as repeated addition, right? That's what it is. Doing 5 times 6 is the same as adding 5 6 times or adding 6 5 times. So some words that we would use if we needed to multiply, let's see what we have. And if I can add any more, I will. All right, but good. Blank times blank. 3 times product, factor, times, good. And to go to indicate a 3 times, you could also say tripling. So a number is tripled, would indicate multiplying by 3. Same with doubled. And that, I think you guys hit the nail on the head. I can't think of any more right now, but those are a couple more. If I think of some more, I'll let you know. But yeah, the product of a number and 3 would be 3x. Can't really think of anything else right now. I think you guys did good on that one. All right, so let's see. What are some words that you would use if you needed to divide? Okay, so some words that we use if we need to divide. So let's see. We have quotient, dividend, divisor, in half, split. So in half and split are good ones that not many people think of right away. So that would be dividing by 2. All of these, in half and split, would both be dividing by 2. So another thing that I kind of just want to point out real quick. So you could also say that when I am dividing by 2, at the same time, I am multiplying by 1/2. Like those would be the same thing, right? If I did x divided by 2 or x times 1/2, these are basically saying the same thing. So you might see how halving something could also might appear on a multiplication list too, because it could be multiplying by 1/2. But these are some good answers. Quotient, dividing, divided by, halving something, splitting between multiple people, and maybe not just 2. All good examples. All right, now this one, I'm not really sure where I was getting at. If you have a response, feel free to throw it in there, because I'm not sure what it means if you need to answer. For me, in my mind, that's equals, but there's also a part that says equals in here. So go ahead and give me your first impression on what words you would use if you need to answer something. I can really only think of one that I haven't said yet. So let's see. What words would you use if you need to answer? Solution is make an equation and solve. So solve was the one that indicates to me that I need to answer something. But yeah, if it says find a solution Or what is the time that Pablo will come home based on this situation? That tells you that you need to solve something. Making an equation and then solving it. All good responses. That one, I might take that one out the next time I do this presentation, but still good to know when you have to actually solve something. All right, now what are some words you would use if you need to equal? So words that indicate that you need an equal sign. And while you guys are writing that, I'm just going to kind of briefly remind you the difference of expressions versus equations. All right, both could have numbers, both could have variables, but only equations have equal signs. So easy way, first 4 letters, equations, equal signs is a big difference. Expressions do not have equal signs. All right, but let's see, what are some words that you would use if you need to indicate an equal sign? So equals, or this equals to. Maybe 2x plus 1 is the same as 3x minus 9. So that would also indicate an equal sign in between those two expressions. Is, I really like that one. Saying something is means equals. So saying the cost of the groceries is $100, well then whatever expression that is equals $100. Solution, good. Equivalent to, is, all very good responses. Sorry if I'm going too fast. Let me show you those responses again if you're writing them down. But good, equals, same as, is, solution, equivalent, and is. All right, now this one, you might not know exactly what I'm talking about yet until I explain it, but just first impression, what words would you use if you need to reverse the order? All right, just give it a shot. Let's see if you know. And then I'll tell you, because I'm not sure you know what this is asking for, but it'll make sense once I show you. You'll be like, oh yeah, I knew that. So what words would you use if you need to reverse the order? All right. So reciprocal, flipping a fraction. It's a good guess. Highest to lowest, lowest to highest, flip, reverse. All right, so good guesses. Here's what we are actually looking for, or what we're actually talking about. When I have a word problem, and let me use my text feature. And let's say I put 12 subtracted from X. Or maybe I have 12 less than X. And then maybe I have X minus, or let me keep it the same. 12 minus X. All right, now not all of these words in between the 12 and the X are considered switch words. That's what I call them, when you have to reverse the order. So if you see these words in your word problems, then just pay very careful attention to the order, because order doesn't really matter in addition or multiplication, right? But in subtraction and division, it does matter. So when we're talking about 12 subtracted from X, is that going to be 12 minus X, or x minus 12? What do you think? Go ahead and just throw that answer in the chat for me. So is 12 subtracted from x? Is it 12 minus x, or is it x minus 12? Now, while you're doing that, I'll go ahead and take attendance before I forget. All right. Now, both of you that have answered are correct. So thank you very much, Caitlin. And I'm so sorry if I keep butchering your name. If I'm saying it wrong, do let me know. Muya. But it is x minus 12. So that's what we mean when we're talking about what words would you use if you need to reverse the order. So you could put the phrase subtracted from, but it's specifically the word from. All right, because ordinarily when I translate expressions, I'll make like little notes to myself. 12 subtracted means subtracted, subtraction sign, and then x. But since it says subtracted from, we need to switch that x and that 12 to make it x minus 12. That would be the correct way to write that. So from is one of the words. What about less than? Is that a switch word or a switch phrase? All right, less than is. So from, than, so 12 less than x is also x minus 12. Now 12 minus x, what is that expression going to look like? Good. This one is not a switch word. This one is just normal 12 minus x. So from is a switch word. Than is a switch word. Minus isn't, but I just wanted to show you the difference of what we're talking about. When you see than or from, switch the order. All right, so good. Let's see the next one. I think we're on to a different tab now. All right, so the next tab that you can take notes under if you're making a foldable, or if you're just taking notes on your own, that's fine too. But we're going to talk about translating expressions and equations. So some steps and examples. Word phrases are a small group of words that demonstrate a mathematical operation with at least one known number. So an example is 10 times as many as n. So that's an example of a word phrase. Oops, didn't mean to do that. All right, 10 times as many as n is an example of a word phrase. An algebraic expression, on the other hand, are number sentences that have at least one known number, one variable, and one operation. And definitely no equal sign. So for example, 10n, and while you can't see the operation symbol, the operation that's implied when they're smushed together is multiplication. So that counts. Same with 10 with the actual multiplication symbol n. But normally any class above algebra will just use it as this to not confuse the multiplication symbol as an X. All right, and then we have algebraic sentence equations are number sentences that have at least one known number, one variable, one operation, and they equal something. right? Remember, expressions versus equations. So that equal sign changes it from just a word phrase to an algebraic equation. And the algebraic comes from something that's like unknown too. All right, so good. Now for the steps, first you will identify the known numbers and the variables. So any unknown values can be labeled with a variable. You will connect key phrases with any operations. So those signal words that we just went over that tell you whether to add, subtract, multiply, divide, and then to rewrite as an algebraic expression or equation. So then here's an example. 5 more than 3 times a number is 26. What did we say that more than means? Good. Yeah, more than means to add. So then when we have 5 more than 3 times a number, and I know than is technically a reverse order word, but order doesn't really matter in addition, so I'm just gonna keep the flow going. 5 more than 3 times a number. Well, since I don't know what that number is, I'm gonna label it with the letter N. And I'm gonna put that they're being multiplied together, 3 times the number, is equal sign 26. So that's how you translate word phrases into algebraic expressions or equations. Questions on that? And keep in mind with than technically being a switch word, they might have this as an answer as well, but order doesn't matter in addition the way that it does in subtraction. So either answer is acceptable. All right, so we'll do these together and then you'll try a few on your own. So more translating a sentence into a one-step equation. So we will actually solve this time. But we are going to translate first. 119 is the product of Donnie's score and 7. So think on your head, write on your notes what you think it would be translated. And usually I'll make notes above the problem itself. So 119 is, yeah, no problem. That is okay if you have to go early. I'm just glad that you're here. All right, have a good one. But yeah, 119 is equals the product. That means multiplication, right? The product of Donnie's score, which we don't know, so maybe we can use the letter D, and 7. So D times 7, because it's product of. Muya had a great observation too. You can write it like this, and that's actually probably how they write it in your Alex platform. Just make sure that the number, if they're kind of attached together, that it's the number first. Avoid writing it as D7. All right, we want to have the coefficient in front of the variable. All right, but good, that's how you would translate that expression. And if we are actually solving, do the opposite of what's being done. Instead of multiplying the variable by 7, we could divide 7 on each side. And then we find out that Donnie's score is 119 divided by 7. And that is 17. So that is Donnie's score. I imagine that for that one, it just wants you to translate it because that's all it asked for. But there you go. All right, now the next question, we'll do the one to the right of this one. We have translating a phrase into a one-step expression. So translate the phrase into an algebraic expression. Think what operation twicing something is, or in other words, doubling. If you thought 2b as your answer, then you are correct. All right, 2 times b, twicing or doubling something, is 2 times whatever it is. And that's an example of an expression because there's no equal sign in that one. All right, now translating a sentence by using an inequality symbol. All right, now inequality symbols, you have 4 options. You have greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. So when I say b is less than 6, and it says write an inequality, I don't want to write b minus 6. All right, that would be incorrect because it asked for the inequality symbol. So in that case, it would be b less than 6 is your correct answer on that one. So yes, less than is normally minus, but if it specifies inequalities, you have to use the inequality symbol. All right, last one of the we do together, and then you will try some on your own. We're going to translate a sentence into a compound inequality. Remember, those are 2 inequalities put together. So I have 0 is less than w. So since we're talking about inequalities, I'm going to put 0 less than w. And those are usually a part of our inequalities, the and or compound inequalities, our and or our ors. And we have 4 is greater than or equal to, that's its own symbol, greater than or equal to w. So in my algebra classroom, I would accept this as an answer for your compound inequality. But the next step says use w only once in your inequality. Well, in that case, I would have to put it in the middle. And usually you'll put your smaller number to the left and your bigger number to the right. So 0 smaller than 4. And when you are putting your symbols, make sure the opening always faces the bigger number, right? Think of 2nd grade with like the alligator symbols and all that. Between 0 and w, we're saying w is bigger. So the opening should still face the w between the 0 and the w. Over here, we're saying that the bigger number is a 4 between the 4 and the w. So that opening still needs to face the 4. So note that flipping of the sign, but the relationship is still the same. We're still saying that 4 is the bigger number compared to the w. All right, and then this right here that I'm boxing up would be your final answer. All right, any questions on these 4 problems? All right, so normally we end at a maximum of an hour. So I think I just have a couple more slides. In the off chance that anyone else needs to leave early, I'm gonna kind of skip ahead and show you my contact information again. So we'll come back to the other slides in a second. All right, so I will always let you out or release you and the meeting an hour after it starts. So at 5 p.m. is when I'll cut it off if we are using up all of the time. But again, this is for you. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them either in the chat and I'll make sure to address them, or if you want to hop on your mic. But do make sure that you have my phone number saved, and texting is the best way to reach me because I can usually respond a lot faster than if you call me. And then I also have my email there too. That would probably be like the third. So texting, calling, and then emailing is the best way to reach me. All right, so far no one has asked any questions. So if you do, just throw it in the chat. All right, but now here are those you try problems. So since there's 4 of them, and some of them are a little bit easy. So since there's 4 of them, I'll give you 3 minutes on my timer to try them before we reveal the answers. So go ahead and try these problems on your own for about 3 minutes. Don't put your answers in the chat until I tell you to. And actually, I think you can write on your own screens. So if you could put your answers on your own screens for your peer deck, and then we'll just kind of scroll through and see which are right and wrong. All right, time is almost up, so wrap up your answers before I show the responses. And again, these are anonymous, so don't hide your responses. A lot of kids do that. Don't hide your responses from me. All right, but let's see how far we got. So for 75 is the product of 5 and Jenny's age. We have 75 equals 5J. 5J equals 75. And it looks like we even have the same thing, 75 equals 5J, but it looks like we even have someone taking it a step further and solving it. So all of you are correct. So good job on question 1. Now, question 2, we have translating a phrase into a one-step expression, W more than 5. All right, I don't see it on this one. This one is correct, W plus 5. And looks like we didn't get that far on this one, but hopefully you remember that more than means plus, so W plus 5. Good, or 5 plus W. The third one, translating a sentence by using the inequality symbol. So A is greater than 2. Good, we have the A as the bigger number in the relationship. So that is correct on this screen. Again on this one, and again on this one. just also be aware, I'll kind of add this one in. If I were to write it as 2 less than A, it's still saying the same thing. It's still saying that A is the bigger number in that situation. Really, what you all wrote is correct, but just know that these mean the same thing, even though the sign is flipped. A is still a bigger number in that relationship. Good. And then the last one, the more challenging one, translating a sentence into a compound inequality. So looks like this one is unfinished. Let's see if the other one is. We have X in the middle, good. -4 is less than or equal to the X, and 1 is greater than or equal to the X. So this one that I am hovering over right now is correct. So whether you were about to get there or you were really close, this one that I'm hovering over is 100% correct. Usually for compound inequalities, we'll want the smaller number on the left side and the bigger number on the right side. So that it kind of follows a traditional number line. All right, but good job. And we are basically out of time. There was a few slides that we didn't get to, but they are very descriptive slides if you want to like take time and add them to your notes yourself. Basically some step-by-steps of solving word problems and an example. And then I also just made these bigger. These are the same slides you just saw, but I just made them bigger for your eyes in case it's hard for you to see. We have a practice problem if you'd like to try that on your own. And if you want to see if you're right, you can always ask me. But that covers all that we need to cover today. So again, if you have questions, feel free to stick around and ask them. Otherwise, you are free to go. Thank you for joining in on the first live lesson, and I will see you all again on Thursday. So have a great one.